Now, here's the anti-Judaic is back, by the way. The Christians mass flagged him. Somehow he got his channel back. Good to see it. He had this. This is the thread I wanted to play the other day. Europeans that figured out the Christian Psy-Op over history, starting with Tacitus, or some people say Tacitus. A most mischievous superstition, Christianity, thus checked for the moment, again broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil. 2,000 years ago, Romans called it an evil superstition, and Jewish. They all knew it was Jewish. Celsus, or some people say Celsus. The Christian teachers warn, keep away from physicians and to the scum that constitutes their assemblies. They say, make sure none of you ever obtains knowledge. Yeah, they're against worldly knowledge, worldly wisdom. For too much learning is a dangerous thing. Knowledge is a disease for the soul, and the soul that acquires knowledge will perish. Discourse against the Christians. And by the way, we only have this because the Christians wrote about him in response. They didn't preserve, or they probably destroyed his works. Yeah, anti-knowledge, anti-science, right? Lucian of Samosata said, the poor Christian wretches have convinced themselves that they are immortal and live forever, which explains their contempt for death and their readiness to sacrifice themselves. They were obsessed with martyrdom, the martyrdom stories manufactured, but then those martyrdom stories led to people wanting to be martyred. Emperor Julian, or Julian the Apostate, as the Christians call him, who saw the threat of Christianity to Rome and tried to turn it back to paganism. And he could have saved humanity if he would have done that, probably. We would have been far better off if Christianity never took root in Rome. In 361, he wrote against the Galileans, the fabrication of the Galileans is a fiction of men composed by wickedness. So he said it's a Jewish fiction. Though it has... Though it has in it nothing divine, by making full use of that part of the soul which loves fable and is childish and foolish, it has induced men to believe that the monstrous tale is truth. That's so fire. 361, Emperor of Rome called it Jewish fiction and wickedness, childish and foolish, and it has induced and brainwashed people to believe that the monstrous tale is the truth. That is so fire. Porphyry, against the Christians, says, what else is this Christian teaching but an unreasoning faith that leads men to reject their own natural faculties? It's anti-nature, anti our natural faculties. For the Pliny the Younger says, for the matter of Christian admission, I am convinced that their stubbornness and inflexible obstinacy ought not to go unpunished. Voltaire says, but though these books were written by a Jew, what is that to us? The Christian religion is indeed founded on Judaism. We despise and abhor the Jews, and yet we insist that all such of their writings, which we have collected, bear the sacred stamp of divinity. Never was such a contradiction heard of. Again, recognizing over 200 years ago that Christianity has controlled opposition. You hate the Jews, but you worship their God. You hate the Jews, but you believe they were chosen. Your main problem with the Jews is that they rejected the Messiah that was meant to conquer the Goyim. Groipergatiak. That's funny. Okay, Thomas Jefferson now. The common law existed while the Anglo-Saxons were yet pagans. Oh yeah, we don't have Judeo-Christian values, okay? They're pagan values. At a time when they had never yet heard the name of Christ pronounced or knew that such a character existed. Christianity neither is nor ever was a part of the common law. But we wouldn't have my morals, my biblical morals without the Jews. In every country and every age, the priest has been hostile to liberty. He is always in alliance with the despot, abetting his abuses in return for protection to his own. Letter to Major John Cartwright, 1824, Thomas Jefferson. John Adams. As the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, the United States of America have exhibited perhaps the first example of governments erected on the simple principles of nature. Pagan. It will never be pretended that any persons employed in that service had interviews with the gods or were in any degree under the influence of heaven. Treaty of Tripoli. James Madison. Founding Fathers W, I know. James Madison said, the establishment of the Christian religion was the first establishment of the legal religion and the source of the innumerable legal persecutions. What influence, in fact, have ecclesiastical establishments had on civil society? In some instances, they have been seen to... Okay, where do I mean? They have seen upholding the thrones of political tyranny. In no instances have they been the guardians of liberties of the people. During almost 15 centuries, has the legal establishment of Christianity been on trial? What has been their fruits? Oh, they've been some rotten fruits. If they only saw the fruits of if the founding fathers saw all of our Zionist politicians today groveling to Israel, rolling in their graves, they would be so pissed. All these Christians lying, saying, we're a Christian country, we're founded on Christianity. They'd be pissed. They'd say, no, we're not. Stop lying. Why do these Christians lie so much? During almost 15 centuries, has the legal establishment of Christianity been on trial? What has been its fruits, more or less in all places? Pride and indolence in the clergy, ignorance and servility in the laity, in both superstition, bigotry, and persecution? Thomas Payne, Age of Reason, 1794. Whenever we read the obscene stories, the voluptuous debaucheries, the cruel and torturous executions, the unrelenting vindictiveness with which more than half the Bible is filled, it would be more consistent that we call it the word of a demon than the word of God. It has served the corrupt and brutalized mankind. Of all the tyrannies that affect mankind, tyranny in religion is the worst. Everything wonderful in the stories of Jesus will be found to be counterpart of something more wonderful in the stories of the gods of the heathens. Nice. So based. Schopenhauer. The ultimate tragedy for Schopenhauer is that the pathetic Judeo-Christian culture dominated the history of Europe. Rather than the nobler Greco-Roman, the religion of the Greeks and Romans, those world powers, has perished. The religion of the contemptible little Jewish race, on the other hand, has been preserved. Wow, nailed it. Schopenhauer, knocked that one out of the park. Henry Thomas Buckle, that the system of moral propounded in the New Testament contained no maxim which had not been previously enunciated, and that some of the most beautiful passage in the apostolic writings are quotations from pagan authors, is well known to every scholar. To assert that Christianity communicated to man moral truths previously unknown argues on the part of the asserted either gross ignorance or willful fraud. Both. Gross ignorance and willful fraud. Like the golden rule, they always go like, oh, Christianity's so good, Jesus' teachings are so good because the golden rule existed before Christianity. Friedrich Nietzsche in The Antichrist says, this is precisely why the Jews are the most disastrous people in world history. They have left such a falsified humanity in their wake that even today Christians can think of themselves as anti-Jewish without understanding that they are the ultimate conclusion of Judaism. Again, noticing the controlled opposition and the limited hangouts of Christians. They're the wannabe Jews. They're the fulfillment of the law. They're another version of messianic apocalyptic Judaism. And then we have the Christians today in denial about this, the e-Crusaders online, who want to say, oh, we didn't come from Judaism, and Christianity wasn't started by Jews, and Jesus wasn't Jewish, and all of those lies. Mark Twain, the Bible according to Mark Twain, the Bible is a book that has been read more and examined less than any book that has ever existed. And it's been examined a lot, so that's still saying a lot because it's still partly true. Oswald Spengler, Christian theology is the grandmother of Bolshevism and liberalism. Alfred Rosenberg, The so-called Old Testament must be abolished once and for all as a book of religion. By this, the unsuccessful attempt of the last 1,500 years to make us spiritual into Jews will be eliminated. One could only hope that we can eliminate this delusion of wanting to be spiritual Jews. Himmler. How many more do we have? I don't even know how many are on this. The worst blow that Christianity ever took against us has been the blow against ancestors and ancestor worship. Oh, they were a bunch of demons and barbarians that were in mud huts. Couldn't have art or literature or build civilization or have morals or armies or have families without the Jews. We couldn't do any of those things. And you're anti-white if you don't agree and bow down to the Jewish God. I'm convinced that the priesthood and the role of Christianity basically amounts to an eroticized male society for the purpose of upholding and maintaining this 2,000-year-old
Social
Bolshevism.
Observer sent $10 on Rumble. Please do a deep dive on the Cathar genocide. Based on the world population at the time, it was the largest mass-scale genocide. Over 1 million Catharis who wanted to be free to worship killed.
Weren't they Gnostics? They were like a Gnostic heretical sect of Christianity, and that's why they got him? Thank you, Social Observer. I'll look more into it. Maybe when I'm done with my book. I got a lot of stuff to do when I'm done with my book, but that's my first priority. That and the shows. Okay, we've done these Nazi ones before. I could go on all day for this stuff. Why do people hate the Jews? Let's ask this rabbi.
Why is there so much anti-Semitism? I do posts, and every time I post a video of a Jewish guy talking, there's so much hate comments. What is it?
This was the way people deal with people that they think are more superior than them is either by respecting them. That's an intelligent response. But the common response is envy, either by respecting them. That's an intelligent response. But the common response is envy that turns into jealousy, that turns into hate. So,
see, we're better than you. That's why we run everything and we censor you, and you should respect us for that. Instead of hate that we're better than you and God chose us, you should respect us that we're chosen.
Unfortunately, with the Jewish story throughout history, if you study the Jews honestly, wholeheartedly, for the sake of heaven, so you know our people are the people of the book, completely spiritual people who...
Jay Dyer's like, these atheists in Israel, these atheists.
Delves into coming close to God all the time and spreading kindness, exactly what the whole religion's about. And then you respect us. I don't know if you love us. You might still feel envious. But you respect it, and we'll respect you too.
Respect my authority. I need this soundbite. Respect my authority. Be a Noahide. Respect my authority.
We're all about respecting others. We care about humanity all the time.
It comes from jealousy, that's what you're saying.
Of course. They see you're greater than them, you're more spiritual than them, you're more family-oriented, you lead a normal life, you're successful in whatever you're doing, whether it's academic or financial. So, and you don't know why. You don't know why you're so far off. You just get jealous. You don't know how to deal with it, unfortunately.
Yeah, that ain't it. I'm not jealous. I don't want to be a Jew. I don't want to be chosen.